Good evening, everybody. My name is Emmanuel. I'm a freshman here at Wabash College, perspective philosophy major from Chicago, and I'll be serving as the Masters of Ceremony for tonight. So before we begin, I would like to ask you all to silence your cell phones. Thank you. So tonight marks the 141st Baldwin Oratorical Contest, a gift from the late V.P. Baldwin. Judge Baldwin endowed an award to be given to the Wabash students who composed and pronounced the best orations. The Baldwin Oratorical Contest is one of the longest continuous running speaking contests in the nation. Judge Baldwin was a longtime trustee of Wabash College. He was well known on campus and spoke regularly both in chapel and in the classroom. He was particularly well known for his lectures on English literature and economics. On the night of the first Baldwin Oratorical Contest in 1873, Judge Baldwin gave each of the finalists a copy of the complete works of Shakespeare and continued that tradition this evening. Tonight, we will remember Judge Baldwin by considering the theme, Practicing Civic Engagement. This year's contestants were asked to identify an issue or problem faced by their community and to advocate for a specific public action and response. The speeches offered by tonight's speakers answered this call through different angles and with different styles. We trust that you will find the orations thought-provoking and enjoyable. We are pleased to have with us an excellent panel of judges for tonight's competition, all of whom incorporate civic engagement into some aspect of their professional lives. Our first, Judge Davey Neal, has an extensive background in civic affairs. He attended Wabash, where he was a member of Beta Theta Pi and Sphinx Club, and was a founding member of Wabash lacrosse club team. After graduating in 2001, Mr. Neal attended the Indiana University McKinney School of Law and the Indiana University Kelley School of Business to complete a joint JD MBA program. He went on to use his education and training to serve in several political positions, including his appointment by Governor Mitch Daniels as the Executive Secretary of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission, succeeded by his position as Deputy Secretary of State and Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Connie Lawson. He is currently with Clark Quinn Law Firm, where he manages its Government Affairs Practice Group. He also focuses his legal practice on hospitality, alcohol and alcoholic beverage, business and commercial services, and governmental services. Mr. Neal has remained an active supporter of Wabash College as a class agent for the class of 2001, a member of the National Association of Wabash Men. We are also pleased to welcome back to campus our second judge, Ethan Flater, who graduated from Wabash in the class of 2012. While at Wabash, Ethan was a rhetoric major and English minor with an area of concentration in education. He went on to teach at Crawfordsville High School, where he instructs students in freshman English, honors English, advanced speech, and debate. Mr. Flater is also the assistant wrestling coach at the high school. Our final judge is Michelle Janssen, who is the Dean of College Advancement at Wabash College, a position she has held since last summer. Ms. Janssen is originally from Logansport, Indiana, and graduated with honors from Valparaiso University. Before coming to Wabash, she served as Executive Director of Development for Valparaiso University for nearly 2 decades, and then as Vice President for Alumni and College Relations at Berea College in Berea, Kentucky. She has been continuously credentialed as a certified fundraising executive since 1994, and in 2011, she is recognized by the Association of Lutheran Development Executives with the organization's Lifetime Achievement Award. Please join me in expressing our thanks to our judges for volunteering their time and lending their expertise to our contest this evening. The 4 finalists will present their speeches now to determine this year's Baldwin Oratorical Contest winner. First is Sean McGrath, second, Faez Mahdi, third, Mason Zurek, and fourth, Michael Krutz. Our first speaker tonight is Sean McGrath. Sean is a junior from Chicago and is a history major with a double minor in economics and business. He is a member of Beta Theta Pi Fraternity, Best Buddies organization, and the Pre-Law Society, and he plays on the Wabash Rugby Club. Sean's oration is entitled Improving National Act.
Thank you. Okay. Does that turn on? Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean McGrath, and tonight I'll be discussing our National Act concert. To start, what do these four musicians, Cage the Elephant, Mad and Kim, Flosstradamus, and hip-hop legend Nas share in common? Well, first, all of them have performed in live music festivals popular in the United States, such as Chicago's Lollapalooza, which I've seen them perform within the past 2 summers. And second, according to DG Entertainment, these four performers would have cost less than the All-American Rejects did this year, who was priced at $70,000. These four artists play music that is more widely popular to the college students, rather than the All-American Rejects, who college students were probably listening to their popular music around the time they were graduating middle school. In this speech, I will argue that the students of Wabash College should insist by be given a larger role in the decision-making process for the National Act concert. This could be achieved by structuring an efficient and organized way for our entire student body to share their personal input during the decision-making process. I will later provide an efficient and organized way this could be achieved. But first, I will discuss the need for a National Act and the current problem we hold with this event. Being an all-male campus, and with the lack of social outlets and events that Crawfordsville provides us with, shows that it can be difficult for students to sometimes get away from the rigorous coursework that the school provides us with on particular weekends. Wabash needs to improve the current events that we hold on campus currently in order to improve the sources of enjoyment and entertainment for their student body, and which in turn would improve our student morale and give the Wabash student body something to be excited for during the semester. As Zach Mahone has stated in the March 27th issue of The Bachelor, which is a Wabash magazine here, he stated, "I think the decision does not accurately reflect the interests of the student body, and it is a waste of money." Judging by my own 3 years as a student, I've realized that leaving the National Act decision to a small portion of our student body has been incapable of providing us with a performer that the student body as a whole would enjoy. It's a problem when the SEAC narrows our options down to 3 or 4 artists to start with, and then they ask to hear the voices of our student body. It's also a problem after we've narrowed down to 3 or 4 artists that the Student Senate does not provide enough time for the campus to vote on this decision. This problem was best shown this year by an email sent by Matthew Clark to the entire student body listserv when he stated, "In the future, please provide more prior notice. Giving the student body less than 3 hours to see the email, decide their vote, and contact the representatives is not likely to produce a result that is representative of the wishes of the entire student body." What our campus needs in order to solve our issues with National Act is to have our student body's voices heard in a structured and organized way. A way that this could be achieved is through the Student Senate or the SEAC creating an online polling system for our student body. In this, there would be 2 polls. Both would be given out within the first few weeks of the school year. And in the first poll, the students would vote on a wider variety of artists, which I estimated around 50 artists would be reasonable for everyone to vote on. Each student would get 1 vote, and the SEAC would decide on who would be the final 3 candidates, the 3 most popularly voted. Then there would be a final poll with only these 3 finalists available. And again, it would be campus-wide with 1 vote per student. And this allows all students to vote on the decision-making process, again, even if their choice wasn't selected in the first place. Ultimately, this decision would solve our problems that we have with the National Act. Now, there's possible concern whether a small school like us here at Wabash could afford the more relevant and popular artists. Well, as this slide shows, with the budget that we had of $70,000 a year for the All-American Rejects, we could afford potentially better choices at around the same price. We could even possibly afford even more costly artists by increasing our budget through the Student Senate budget. Their entire budget for the spring semester, as it shows on the Wabash College website on their Student Senate page, was a total of $406,984 for this semester. The SCAC, who's responsible for choosing the National Act Concert, was given $63,170. And after the Senate allocated all their funding and budgeted out all the clubs and organizations on campus, there still remained over $150,000 remaining. What this shows is that Wabash, we do have the money to afford the more costly and more expensive artists and draw in more popular artists here to campus, and that in turn would improve our National Act. If we make it clear that our student body wants a more popular artist, we do have the large enough funds that are being unspent each semester to make this possible. Another concern regards timing. As is mentioned in the same issue of The Bachelor, Student Senate Representative Brady Quackenbush states, in the future, we want to leave more time for organizing National Act to give the students what they want. Well, my solution would be a great way in doing that, since I insist on a campus-wide poll at the beginning of each school year. Voting at the beginning of the school year provides the Student Senate with enough time to reach out to the candidates while also hearing the voices of the entire student body. This also provides the best possibility in having the artists available on a particular weekend, and gives us the most time to find an open weekend to schedule this concert. Some of the potential benefits of the solution may include, 1, increasing revenue gained from the concert. Since the show is open to members outside of the Wabash community, and we do sell tickets for outside community members, we could increase our revenues from this concert. Also, this could lead into a way of uniting the Wabash and Crawfordsville communities, since most of us already know that Crawfordsville doesn't bring in the entertainment of this magnitude really ever throughout the year. Community members might be enticed to go to this event, and in turn would increase revenue as well for buying tickets. But however, the main benefit is that it brings democracy and the National Act selection to the entire Wabash student body. The advantage of democracy is that it allows the voice of the whole to be heard over the voice of the few. This allows the student body representatives to hear the opinions of their classmates on the National Act, and makes their duty a lot less stressful and easier, since they no longer carry the burden in deciding who is performing for the entire student body, and they're no longer being criticized by the entire student body after making a decision. At this point, I've provided you all with the problem, the solution, along with its benefits. I will now conclude by telling how you, the students of Wabash College, can put my solution into action. The first way we can put this into action is by passing this idea to the current or future members of the Student Senate. A way this can be done is through attending Student Senate meetings, which are hosted on a weekly basis on the second floor of the Wabash Library, and proposing this to the current members. Another way this could possibly be done is passing this idea to the classmates, fraternity brothers, teammates that you know that are hoping to become a future Student Senate member. And in turn, this would get the ideas in the right head, in the right minds, so we can get this solution into action. Students could also host a campus-wide presentation for the students that aren't affiliated with the Student Senate, that don't really know much about this and hear more ways how we can improve this. We could do this by telling them how the National Act is a way to better reward ourselves for all the hard work that we put into throughout the school year. If we are capable of resolving these problems we have with our National Act through my solution, I promise that this campus event would not be characterized as a waste of money. By giving the entire student body an efficient way to make their opinion matter, students would be more engaged in the decision-making process, and in turn causing a more well-liked and more populated National Act concert. In a bigger picture, I hope this solution would create an event that was well liked by the majority of the student body, and in turn would also cause this to be recognized as one of the better weekends to be here at Wabash College. I appreciate you all listening to my speech. Thank you, and God bless America. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Our second speaker tonight is Faez Mahdi, from Dr. Bangladesh, who intends to major in economics and double minor in math and rhetoric. He is currently the treasurer of the International Students Association, Cricket Club, and Soccer Club. He loves anything related to soccer, or as he calls it, football. Faez's speech this evening is entitled Extremism in Muslim-Majority Countries.
PC. Thank you everyone for coming today. I'd like to start. When we think of Muslims, the picture we often associate is with that of Arabs. However, some may even find it surprising that only 25% of the world's Muslims are Arabs. That is approximately the same, if not slightly more, of the world's Christian population, which is in Africa. However, when we think of Christians, we don't often associate the image with that of a native Zimbabwean or a Ugandan. We at Wabash are men of stature. Our skills are not gifted, but rather molded by rigorous academics, social awareness, and leadership positions. However, even we fall victim to stereotypes. A lot of DePaul students told me that they think Wabash students are basically cavemen with no fashion sense, etiquettes, or even humor. I have no idea how they got the humor part. Of course, a lot of it might be funny to us because we know what the truth is. However, think of it this way. What if a person from New York or California heard from them about what Wabash is? They would not have a positive image. In fact, as for myself, I'm a very enthusiastic learner. I love learning about different cultures and religions and beliefs. I have read some of the Bible, I have read the Quran, and I've read the Gita. In fact, I've published a paper on the Gita in my high school. From my readings and experiences, I have learned that religious scriptures are not responsible for extremism. It is the people who misinterpret it. Therefore, today, I will advocate for students at Wabash College to pursue studies and activities devoted towards Islam and Muslim countries in order to alleviate in misinformation and generalizations. I will address two popular beliefs about Muslims and explain why they are fallacies. First, the degree of rights of women in Muslim majority countries, and second, the degree of extremism among Muslims. To begin with, Muslim countries are often criticized of being primitive in grounds of women's rights. It is true to a great extent, but however, only some of it, because most Muslim countries are not are not very conservative in terms of women's rights. In fact, in Saudi Arabia, of course, women cannot drive, women cannot vote, and women cannot go out of their homes without their husbands. But we must be very careful that we are talking about Saudi Arabia in particular. So this is definitely not the case in most other countries. For instance, I come from Bangladesh, and in my lifetime, I have never seen a male prime minister. In the last 23 years in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is the third most populous Muslim majority country, and in the last 23 years, there have been female leaders. 1/3 of the parliament in Egypt consists of women, and Egypt is the 5th most populous Muslim country. The president of Indonesia in 2001 to 2004 was a female leader, and Indonesia is the most populous Muslim country. Pakistan, despite being termed as very extremist, and it is the 2nd most populous Muslim country, had elected Benazir Bhutto twice as their prime minister. Turkey has more heads of state than the United States of America. Kyrgyzstan, despite being a Muslim country, elected an atheist by faith female leader in 2010. Afghanistan had elected a female minister back in 1964. May I remind you that is the exact same time when we were undergoing our civil rights movements. Another criticism about women, and recently at a CNN interview, I've seen that a CNN correspondent regarded female genital mutilation as being a Muslim problem. As you can clearly see from this this map, that this shows the prevalence of female genital mutilation in African countries. And from this map, you can see that Eritrea and Ethiopia are Christian majority countries, and they have similar amounts of 74 and 83% female genital mutilation, which does suggest that it is not a religious problem, it is rather a geographical problem in northern parts of Africa. And nowhere in the Quran have I ever read that female genital mutilation exists. Moving on to my second point about extremist beliefs in Islam. Islam is generally criticized of being very extremist with minimum room for liberal principles, minimum room for homosexuals, non-believers, and atheists. In fact, Glenn Beck, he's a Yale graduate, by the way, he said that 10% of all Muslims are either terrorists or condone the idea of terrorism. In fact, 10% of 1.7 billion is 170 million people. In fact, the chances of me being a terrorist is 1/10. So, what would we think about extremism? Is it related to just Islam? Well, the Bible on Exodus 31, verse 12 to verse 15, encourages killing people who work on Sundays. On Leviticus 20, verse 13, it encourages death for homosexuals. On Deuteronomy 22, verse 20 to 21, the Bible talks about stoning women who engage in premarital sex. The Quran is not very different either. The punishment for stealing without a second chance is cutting off a perpetrator's hands. Is Buddhism the religion of peace? No, because in Myanmar, Muslims are being killed for just being Muslim. Are Hindus different? No, because there's a term called sati suicide, which means a wife must burn herself to death if her husband dies. So I believe that if one decides to cherry pick verses and tailor it to their own liking, there will be extremism. It is not the religious scriptures. I had the privilege to interview Dr. Blix, and my interview soon turned into a passionate conversation. He's right here sitting today. And he believed that Islam is experiencing a revolution which America went through as well. And moving on to my solution for this problem about this generalization, I will advocate for students at Wabash College to pursue studies and activities devoted towards Islam and Muslim countries in order to alleviate misinformation and generalizations. You might be wondering, what kinds of things could we do with these informations? Well, did you know that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, and by the year 2050, it will have a population of 2.72 billion. Yes, we will continue as a country, if not as a state, to have meaningful interactions with Muslims. If we successfully adopt knowledge on Islam and Muslims, we would build a bridge of communication. The quality of interaction is likely to be more productive and collaborative if it is based on knowledge and understanding rather than fear and ignorance. A good way to start might be by joining the MSA, which is the Muslim Students Association at Wabash College, or even spending time with the people. I'm an active member. If you have questions, you can ask me after this event. Apart from learning about new things, we engage in humanitarian events like the Philly Cheesesteak Festival. Sounds good. This year, we raised the revenue of $1,200 for the Crawfordsville Public Free Clinic. And this is a picture from last year for the Philly Cheesesteak Festival. The Religion Department offers a course solely on Islam and religions of India every fall. It is again taught by Dr. Blix. This course introduces basic principles of Islam and religions of India, which is Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. And this first part of the course studies on his history, beliefs, and how everything developed in India. The second part focuses on his down to coming of Islam in the 8th century. And the last part has a comparison between Islam and Hinduism in India. Actions do not have to be limited to just students. I would encourage the EQ faculties present here today to consider including a reading devoted towards Islam or Muslim countries. That way, all the freshmen coming in would have that basic knowledge about Islam. So, in conclusion, my overall thesis was to advocate cultural knowledge, specifically Islamic knowledge, at Wabash. In my speech, I have discussed the rights of women in Muslim communities in terms of leaders, discussed how female genital mutilation is not a Muslim problem, and rather a geographical problem. Next, we learned how religious scriptures do not promote liberal beliefs, because it is up to us to interpret it, adjust, and move forward with the time. In conclusion, I believe that religion should not define us. I believe humanity comes before Islam. I believe humanity comes before Christianity. I believe humanity comes before Judaism. I believe humanity comes before everything else. I believe one day we will all be united. I believe. Thank you.
So our next speaker is Zurek. Mason is a rhetoric major and history minor. So recently traveled to the Cleveland States Communication Association's annual conference in Madison, Wisconsin, to deliver a paper. He is a brother of the Sigma Chi fraternity, plays football, and works in the writing center. Mason's oration is entitled "Fixing Youth Voter Participation."
Hello, my name is Mason. You all have to bear with me. I don't have any graphical aids, so hopefully my oratory is charismatic enough to keep you all attention, as opposed to, fancy pictures and such. I'm a rhetoric major, as Emmanuel stated, so I kind of felt obligated to join this competition. Now that I made the finals, I kind of feel obligated to bring it home for my department, but, it's neither here nor there. It's interesting that Sean and Faez both touched upon the topic of my speech in theirs. Sean mentioned voting for a national act, and Faez mentioned voting as it relates to human rights and a part of democracy in the Middle Eastern world. My speech is on youth voter participation, something that will become incredibly important as 2016, the race gets underway. As you know, 2012, 2008, President Obama pretty much had the youth vote locked down. He was a strong contender. The youth loved him. There was really no point for anyone trying to cater to the youth vote because he had it so secured. This year, this upcoming year, however, the youth vote will be significantly more problematic and harder to capture, which is why it becomes so important. However, the youth don't like to vote very much at all. According to Lee and Marsh in a British Journal of Political Science study about American politics, 40.8% of 18 to 24-year-olds are considered complete non-participants in politics, while another 44.1% are merely blind followers to their party's beliefs. Basically, if they declare to be Democratic or Republican, they go along with whatever they think that means. Furthermore, voters between the ages of 18 and 29 make up 21% of eligible voters, but hardly do more than half of those eligible actually cast a ballot. It's an incredible number. Me and my peers make up 1/5 of the voting block, but provide about less than 10% of the vote. So in my research, I came to conclude that this participation is affected by two serious problems. One, apathy caused by partisanship, and two, distrust of the media. And I believe this lack of participation in young voters presents a serious threat to democracy and is best combated by a change in civic education. In this speech, I will give a quick background on some of the reasons, importance of voting, and then go into the two background reasons why you tend not to vote, and then finish up with advocating for the changes I best believe. Voting is one of the most simple acts of political participation. Yes, you have very many things such as community service, campaigning for others, But yet voting at the heart of it in a Republican democracy like we have is the crux of political participation. It is the most basic right to a citizen of age, and to not exercise it devalues one's citizenship. American youth are citizens of this country and just as important as everyone else, even if it may not seem like that. We as a generation need to realize that in America, we have a right and an obligation to vote and continue the democratic traditions that are so strong in our country. Especially, increases because we are such a highly fought over demographic. People want our votes, they cater to our votes, they want us to vote for them, and in that case, we should probably go out and actually make it to the polls. So now, the first reason young voters tend not to deal with that is that many young voters believe that in this age of partisan bickering, participating is a lost cause. Over the last several years, Congress has been incredibly unproductive, and that has scared off many people and shown distaste towards many people. According to studies by Harbridge and Malthra in the American Journal of Political Science, whenever a Congress is deemed partisan, 55% of people will say they have little to no confidence in it, which is just a staggering number. And that's even worse for the youth, who tend to be more idealistic than possibly some of their older, more politically jaded fellow voters. For the youth, representatives are supposed to exemplify what voters want for their country. But normally this does not happen, as politicking in Washington and general drive for re-election affects this change in Washington, D.C. So youth voters tend to be put off by what they perceive as their voice not being heard, which is one issue. And especially when partisanship comes, they tend to get even more displeased because they especially think their voice is not being heard. And so the second point is that the young viewer is cynical towards the media. As many of you know, news media is our primary source. Television media is our primary source of information about politics now. According to a September 2012 Gallup poll, 60% of Americans distrust the media to accurately or fairly report the news. As I said, this is in 2012. Since that, we've had a significant scandal in television media with Brian Williams lying about his coverage of the Iraq War. I would tend to believe that 60% is significantly higher now because in one poll, Brian Williams was a top 20 trusted celebrity and fell to the 800s. So Fumu, Miller, and Jallet in the American Communication Journal state that negative campaign tactics, lack of coverage of substantial issues, and focus on images rather than issues lessens optimism towards politics. In other words, news media, television media tends to be more about flash than about actually getting to the issues, which on the surface you think would be a better way to attract the youth. However, the youth don't want to be considered unimportant. Our votes want to matter as much as those who are deemed more politically intelligent and more involved in the issues. We don't want to be catered to by sound bites and other snippets. Youth believe they deserve the respect equal to other voters, and when we don't get that, it also tends to sour us on voting. So, how to fix this? My recommendation is that civic education be changed and strengthened at an early age, probably in high school as the voting age becomes much closer, in order to teach children about the power and necessity of voting. To do this, civic education would stress the ideology behind democracy and voting, and focusing on the privilege we have in America to vote. Like many know, voting is not a right across the world. It is something that from the beginning has been distinctly linked with American ideology. And as we are Americans, we want to continue that. That's something that needs to be stressed in the education, is that voting is a core belief of the American people. Naturally, the government would be the main actor in this change, and actually working on voting is in their self-interest. In March 2015, President Obama made remarks about the low voting turnout, even suggesting humorously that voting be made mandatory. Also, Barbara Bowl in an article states that the government should meaningfully connect their students through introducing open discussion of practical and current real-world issues that inform and drive expanded awareness and increased excitement for getting involved. In other words, the government, through changing civic education, would be furthering the future leaders of tomorrow. Civic education is important to get students excited about change and the effects that they can have in our country later in life. However, the reasons we're not seeing this is because education is shifted primarily towards STEM courses, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as the rest of the world admittedly starts to outstrip America in those instances. Bola also states, by limiting and sometimes eliminating civic education in schools and concentrating primarily on marketable and measurable skills in reading, math, and science, U.S. educators are failing to prepare the next generation of citizens with appropriate knowledge, skills, habits, and values. As you can see, and as Bola attests to, that the changes in civic education and education in general are not preparing the next generation of tomorrow's youth to vote and be active citizens. So I believe that if we change and focus more on civic education and stress the importance of receiving multiple media sources for news information to avoid being soured on the local media, and stress the negative effects of partisanship and the changes that can come with increased voter turnout, that civic education can craft a new generation of politically active young voters. So, in conclusion, youth voter turnout is seriously affected by issues with apathy caused by partisanship and distrust of the media. The downward spiral of youth voting is best counteracted by changing civic education to promote against these evils and focus more on building the leaders of tomorrow, which hopefully we can inspire and do. Thank you.
Plans to major in economics and minor in rhetoric at Wabash. He's a member of many groups, including the football team, Best Buddies, and Outdoorsman Society, and the Beta Theta Pi Rush PC. Michael's speech is entitled Healthier Food Within Fraternities at Wabash.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out today. Now, according to a study prepared by the Journal of American College Health in 2008 at Auburn University, they found that 70% of students gained weight with an average weight gain of over 11 pounds. Now, at Wabash, I'm sure we'd find similar, if not worse results here with some of the pictures of the food options being offered within the fraternities. Got some nice burgers, everybody? Maybe some fries to go along. Maybe some healthy chicken. Now, at Wabash College, the food options being present here currently result in an increase in negative health effects due to the overall quality of food being served here. Now, as a result of this, there's a substantial percentage of students here who are suffering. Now, living within the Beta Theta Pi fraternity here on campus, I feel like I am being personally affected as I'm exposed to lesser quality and less substantial healthy food compared to other students here at Wabash College. Now today, I will encourage students living within fraternities at Wabash to join my Healthier Foods initiative, and I plan on doing that with this step process. First, I will explain why we need healthier foods here. Secondly, I will reveal how we will get them here. Thirdly, I will convey what will happen in bringing these healthier foods here. And lastly, I will propose to you what you can do as a student today to bring healthier foods to the fraternities here at Wabash College. Now, as stated prior, our problem here at Wabash is fraternities are not offering healthy enough foods. Now, the issue here behind the associated problem is the cost of these healthier foods. Now, according to Daniel Provlisis, who is the treasurer at Beta Theta Pi, he says that it is not feasible within the budget of the house to provide enough healthier food options. Now, another issue behind this is that healthier foods are not always the most popular. Lori Hunt, the cook at Beta Theta Pi, says that it is extremely difficult to please 70-plus college boys. Healthy foods are not always the most popular amongst college students, and it really doesn't help that they are the cheapest as well. Now, due to these unhealthy foods, we can expect an increase in negative health effects as a result for these students living within the fraternities. According to a Northwestern medicine study, 95% of college students today fail to eat the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables. Melissa Woodwick, the director of the Kendall Anderson Nutrition Center, notes that the effect of unhealthy foods, such as the following things, is cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, as well as cancer. She also says that the first problems associated with heart disease start in the early 20s. Now, this is very alarming. Now, you may think to yourself today, I'm an independent student here on campus. I'm not living in a fraternity. Now, why should I care about fraternities gaining these healthier foods? And the answer is simple. Healthier food options within the fraternities will result in a healthier, overall better Wabash College. Now, everyone here is involved in some kind of sport, club, intramural team. Wouldn't you want a fellow teammate and peer to be the healthiest they can be, function at their max potential, and have no negative health effects later on in life? Now, I'd hope you'd answer yes to all these questions, as all are creating a healthier, overall better Wabash College. Now, transitioning into how we can do all of this, the fraternities need to be provided with substantially healthier food options and actions, specifically through Wabash College. Now, the Spark Center here at Wabash College is where independent students eat their meals, and there they are provided with substantially healthier food options. In bringing in Bon Appetit food services, various measures have been taken by them and to ensure the high quality of food there. Now, here we have just a screenshot from the Bon Appetit wellness page you can find here online. And here's where they attest to some of these healthier food options, with things such as cage-free eggs, RBH-free milk, as well as humanly raised beef, which can be attested to the 6 local steers that they bring in from local farmers within a 100-mile radius of here each week. Another helpful thing found on their website is a portion of the website entitled Ask the Dietitian. Now here, questions are answered regarding things such as healthier food choices, number of calories, and if diet foods are being offered. And these are all clearly answered yes on their website. If you would go ahead and click on the red things. Now, Wabash needs to provide equal opportunities for students to eat healthier, regardless of where they live, whether it be a fraternity or independent. Now, essentially, this goes against the gentleman's rule, as independent students are provided healthier foods than the students who are living within the fraternities. Now, the way in which healthier food options can be provided to fraternities the most efficiently is through Wabash College action and the expansion of Bon Appetit food services. Expanding Bon Appetit food services will now allow them to deliver more food, as they will deliver food to every fraternity in addition to the Spark Center as they do now currently. This will result in more business of Bon Appetit, as it will now supply to every fraternity. According to General Manager Mary Jo Arthur, I have pictured, this will result in, quote, an increase in total revenue for Bon Appetit food services. In doing this, Arthur mentioned that the cost of the food per individual unit could also decrease for the fraternities and Wabash College overall. Another benefit of this is that the fraternities won't be affected, since the current cooks now will be able to keep their jobs and now cook with substantially healthier ingredients. In a recent interview with Mary Jo Arthur, I explained the expansion proposal, and she noted that she would be in support of the action, quote, and saying it would be a win-win for everyone. She also told me that a couple fraternities here on campus have already expressed interest in the idea and may resort to such change in the near future. Ms. Arthur also informed me in her regular meetings with her boss here on campus, as I have pictured Larry Griffith, who is the chief financial officer of the college as well as the treasurer, that they have come into discussion of this proposal already, and that he would be in support if the proposal came up as well for the expansion of Bon Appetit. Now, with this very practical solution present here, this now shifts into how beneficial this can be for Wabash College overall. The students within the fraternities at Wabash will see an increase in overall energy, as well as academic success increasing, all as a result of eating healthier foods. Now, according to a Harvard Medical School health publication, it says that keeping a healthy, balanced diet will result in an increase in overall energy. Now, with students eating healthier and higher energy levels present, this will lead to more academic success here on campus. And I know we can all attest to having a low amount of energy here at some point here at Wabash. Other schools have also had similar success in providing healthier foods to students. In 2011, the City University of New York initiated their campaign for healthy food. Their campaign was designed to improve healthy food options, educate about health concerns, as well as reduce the consumption of unhealthy foods on their campus. Now, according to USA Today, who has been monitoring the success of CUNY, they say that the university aims to transform into the healthiest urban university by the year of 2016. Now, as far as with all these benefits and other examples of similar schools and success, you're probably wondering what you personally can do today. As fellow students, Greek as well as independent, I'm challenging you to participate in bringing healthier food options to fraternities, all in making Wabash College better overall. Now, the first step in bringing healthier food options to fraternities is to assemble enough students in support of the Bon Appetit expansion. Now, in a previous version of this speech, I presented the following sheet where I asked the questions of if you'd be in support of the expansion and if you'd be willing to voice your opinion. Now, my results of passing this out, I have half the population of the people I handed it out to answered that they would be in favor. And on the left here are people who would be in favor of the expansion. Half of those students are in fraternities and half of them are independent, showing that it doesn't matter where you live. Everybody would be in support of this expansion. In addition to this, I also conducted a campus-wide survey in where I asked the question, would you be in support of Bon Appetit catering to the Spark Center as well as the fraternities, all in favor of the expansion? I had that 68% of the students answered yes, while only close to 30% said no. Now, with these results, it is now feasible in approaching the college with these statistics and an up-to-date sheet with names. Now, this takes me to my second step of action. Joseph Hacklin here on the screen, as you may all well know, is the director of campus wellness, as well as the director of athletics here on campus. Now, in a recent interview in discussing the expansion, Hacklin seemed to be in favor of the proposal, as he noted, quote, Wabash College as a whole will be stepping in the right direction and with this change in expanding Bon Appetit to bring healthier foods within the fraternities. Now, as the director of wellness here at Wabash College, Hacklin conducts regular meetings in the Allen Center Billings Conference Room, as I have noted. So, I'm asking you, the student body and faculty, people who want change, to join me in attending the next meeting, which will take place this upcoming school year. I plan on presenting the expansion in addition to my survey results and informational sheet, while having the support of the students, the general manager of Bon Appetit, the director of wellness and athletics here at Wabash College, and finally, the chief financial officer and treasurer here at the college. I am very hopeful of such change in the near future. Now, in conclusion, with your help as a student, Greek or independent, we can make Wabash College better overall. In coming together to obtain support and present the action of change to bringing healthier food options to the fraternities, we are helping current and future Wabash men be the best that they can be. By 1, increasing their energy, decreasing the negative health effects, and an overall betterment in their level of health. Thank you.
So the judges will now confirm on the speeches and be back shortly with their decision. So while they deliberate, we'll open the floor for questions. So let's try and keep it to at least one question per participant. So, stand up. Yeah, stand up.
Yeah. Spread out here.
Any questions for the participants?
I had a question for Krutz.
Okay.
So we already have kind of a system in place like that
Mhm.
called Campus Cooks as opposed to Bon Appetit.
Yeah.
How would that affect our cook? Because all the guys in the house really enjoy him, and we
Yeah.
get all of our food through that service.
Mhm.
So how would the expansion affect Sigma Chi?
If we were to expand this, okay, I see what you're saying. Now, like in yeah, Jake Norley here asked, since they have a different food system in place already, how would the expansion of Bon Appetit really affect him? Him being like Sigma Chi fraternity here on campus. And I think that in talking to Joseph Hacklin and Larry Griffith, the chief financial officer here on campus, it would have to be like a joint decision in expanding Bon Appetit. So I really think that in providing to every single fraternity, it would have to be like a joint decision, and like everybody would have to agree yes. So like if Sigma Chi wanted to do their own thing, I don't know if the expansion would exactly work. So obviously that would create a problem, but we'd be willing to work it out, I guess.
You talked about when you're talking about rights for women in Muslim countries, you're talking about specifically you use just genitalia mutilation and a number of PMs or prime ministers that are female
CNN that female genital mutilation was deemed as a Muslim problem. So these are the two I discussed because these were highly criticized as being Muslim problem. However, if we consider the rights of women and pay scale, if that's what you're asking me, yes, it is a problem in a lot of countries because in Saudi Arabia, women cannot work. Cannot. And the fact that women are running the country does somehow highlight that women are equally, or if not superior, to men in our country. So I don't know of any cause or any reasoning behind women being paid less. However, I have had this one campaign, and people are very aware in a lot of other countries. For instance, I had a campaign with ActionAid, UNF. And I was a co-organizer, and it was about women farmers being paid half of what male farmers get paid. So that is an agricultural issue, and it was actually featured in Reuters, and it got resolved thanks to that. So, and we had about 2,000 volunteers, and people are very aware of it. So, no, it's not a problem.
I have a question for you, Sean,
Okay.
about National Act. In the past, I know the SCAC has tried to put out a survey to the student body, and I think the last time that happened, participation was really low
Right.
in the response, and so I think that was Gym Class Heroes, maybe. I might be wrong,
Uh-huh.
but is there a way that you could incentivize students to participate in this poll, or what kind of solution could you have for participation?
Well, I feel like the polling thing, like, it wasn't successful in the past because it was already narrowed down to just 3 or 4. And I think through my way, just having it more wider and having way more options for students, it like entice them to feel like they have more of a say in it and feel like their vote really matters, and in turn, hopefully, it like creates a better National Act concert together. I don't know, as a whole. Yeah. Yeah. Good question, Grant.
So you, and probably most people here know, you're preaching to the choir with civic education. However, what would you say to those who might say that civic education isn't as important as some of those kind of career-based or technical-based skills that really prepare students for, taking calculus in college or taking science courses in college? We have limited time. How do we continue to why is it so important to continue to prioritize?
I would say it's important to when I say prioritize, I don't mean downgrade the STEM, where trying to make it more equal, because, I mean, especially as it relates to STEM, and not everyone's going into that. Most of these people up here are not STEM majors. So civic education is important because across the board, everyone's going to use it in their life. If they're American, they're in some democratic country. Heck, it could work in other governments as well, but it's important because it's universal. It's not something that is necessarily going to help you in a career, but it's something that you're going to utilize through life, which is essentially is what school is for. We're at a liberal arts college. Very many of us are being prepared explicitly for a career after this, rather learning skills that we plan on utilizing through the rest of our lives. Something that civic education would be helpful for.
I'm curious if you thought more about a really good plan just to prevent cooks from preparing the food any differently than they do currently in fraternities.
Are you saying with the ingredients that we have currently? Pretty much the main thing I came across was pretty much the associated costs with it. And it,
So if it's a high quality ingredients, why would that not necessarily still result in overcooked burgers and
Yeah.
overfried french fries?
no, yeah, like I see what you're saying in this point of view, but like I feel like if you said the point of like burgers, if we had like Bon Appetit humanly like grown beef, like the overall quality of the hamburger meat will be substantially better regardless of how you cook it either way. Like I understand how the cook might cook the burger the same exact way, but with the ingredients different, newer, healthier, I feel like it'd provide a better meal overall. So. Yes, I mean, I definitely think I could speak for a majority of people in that they would definitely say that, like, and Mary Jo Arthur, the Bon Appetit general manager, also hinted at if we would do the Bon Appetit expansion, people from Bon Appetit food services would come in and kind of educate the cooks on how to properly cook their food. And I feel like with this education and better new ingredients, it would result in better meals overall as well. So.
I had a question, if I may.
Yep.
So, for you,
Yeah.
if you expand Bon Appetit, do you think the quality would fall because they would be producing large scale for all the frats and the independents?
Yeah.
Now that they just produce for independents, that makes the quality better. But if you expand them, do you think the quality would fall?
I mean, generally, I would say no. Talking to Mary Jo Arthur, all their ingredients, especially like the meats that they provide, come with a 100-mile radius of here with a multitude of local farms. And I feel like with these local farms that continuously provide the food to Bon Appetit, that it really shouldn't hurt the substantial amount of overall quality of the food being served.
Got a question for Mason. You talked about encouraging students and the education system to educate students about, the voting process and being engaged in government. Do you think that teachers at that young age or do you think they would be able to remain unbiased when they're talking to these young students? And if you don't think they'll be able to remain unbiased, how would you counteract that?
So I don't think I've ever met an unbiased teacher in my life. And it's no knock against the teaching profession. It's just that, I mean, as long as the teacher's upfront about it. My civic education teacher I had in high school was incredibly liberal. He was upfront about it because at this time, for many people, this was the formative years of their political leanings and ideologies. Well, I do believe, yeah, absolutely, that you could have maybe an unethical teacher who tried to sway everyone to their own political ideology, that it could be an issue. But, and then there also comes a point where you have to rely on the educators to be ethical and unbiased as best they can.
Mason, did you think about, rather than civic education, but the way that we allow anyone to develop the voting process would also encourage young voters? Like the way that we vote in America hasn't changed for, I'm not exactly sure what the date is, but it's been forever. So we still have a voting day at 6 hours one day and that's it. So could you consider anything else besides civic education?
So, I mean, you mean like alternate, like maybe multiple voting days or something along those lines?
Just changing the procedures of voting.
I didn't really think about that. No, but I mean, that's obviously,
Like tweet your vote.
yeah, I mean, I guess you could kind of kills the, private polls, but no, absolutely. I mean, sure, there's many things. I know a lot, especially midterm elections, and not a lot of people get out, one, because it's a midterm election, because it's not a lot of fanfare, and two, because, they got work. Same thing for the regular election. So, yeah, while like maybe extending voting hours or extending voting days even would be advantageous, I didn't really look into how that would necessarily affect the youth. I kind of look, especially when you're 18 to like 22, like if you're in your college years, it's not hard to squeeze out 20 minutes to go to the local vote on November, whichever Tuesday it is. Because I mean, when I was in here, when I was at Wabash, was the first time I got to vote. It was November of my freshman year, and I mean, it took me 15 minutes to go drive down to the local elementary school. But I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really look into maybe changes in the whole voting process, but I could see that there could be some advantages, or just be a change in tradition.
students themselves. I mean, if that's what students advocate and they don't feel a desire for a national act as much as I do myself, then I think that would be a very efficient way of being approaching this because, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to want to spend this so-and-so money in different ways. So, I mean, there are so many different ways you could think of spending the money. So, yeah, that also is a possible way of figuring out a solution.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, we're waiting on the judges' deliberations, and so if everybody could just hang tight, and I'm sure the judges will be returning to us soon. Oh, right now. There we go.
Introducing them one at a time. I'm first. Somebody had to go first. All right. For our fourth place finisher, we have Mason Zurek. We all agreed that Mason probably showed the most personality within the speech. He came out strong with his personality, and that definitely showed. And probably the best eye contact throughout his entire speech, and those two qualities were just a privilege to watch and see. Thank you. All right. Our third place winner is Mr. Sean McGrath. We all came to an agreement that Sean presented an issue that was something everybody could participate in, something everybody could get behind, something that affected everyone, and he gave clear reasoning. Anytime you can talk about dollars and cents of an issue and go through the cost-benefit analysis, not the issue, but then the cost-benefit analysis of the solution, you can come up with a pretty clear way to get people engaged. So congratulations, Sean.
I'm pleased to present the second runner-up, Faez Mahdi. So Faez took on a very complicated topic tonight, and he showed passionate advocacy for an issue of international importance. So congratulations.
Okay, and in a shocking surprise, this year's first place winner is Michael Krutz. Congratulations. We felt that Michael's speech had the best roadmap, the best follow-through. He told us at the beginning what he was going to say, and then he hit every mark along the way. He had a great use of sources and citations. He clearly understood who he was talking to. He had the best command of his material and was able to use a complex process, but also engage with the audience. And we were also impressed with the first steps that he had already taken towards getting civic participation. So again, congratulations to the first place winner. Once again, I'd like to thank the evening's judges, Mr. Neal, Mr. Plater, and Ms. Janssen,
finally, thank you all for coming to the 141st Baldwin Oratorical Contest. We will see you